Hello and welcome to Ukraine Today's press review. I'm Rahim Rahimtullah. In today's program, we'll look at two articles from the international media which cover the conflict in East Ukraine. As of Tuesday morning, the Ukrainian military reported 9 servicemen had lost their lives in the 24 hours previous and dozens more had been wounded. The battle with Russian-backed militants in these past 9 months has now claimed more than 5,000 lives. Turning to our first article for today, we have seasoned commentator Leonid Bershidsky writing in Bloomberg. His headline reads, "Why Putin Will Fight On in Ukraine." Bershidsky is critical of the West for not doing more to help Ukraine. He says Western leaders are stubbornly sticking to their path of no appeasement of the Kremlin, no military action to help Ukraine. Just more economic sanctions on Russia, it's a surefire way to get Ukrainians killed. Bershidsky points out that economic pressure on Russia isn't really having the desired effect, citing the recent offensives by the militants as evidence. Those attacks came as US President Barack Obama insisted that Russia is isolated and its economy is in tatters. Bershidsky believes the Kremlin wants to use force and gain a military advantage in East Ukraine in order to improve its bargaining position in negotiations with Kiev and the West over the fate of Ukraine's Donbas region. And he wants that quickly. Putin doesn't want to give Ukraine any more time to build up its military with Western help. He wants a lasting deal soon. We turn now to our second piece of today, which comes from Alexander Matil writing in The World Post. His article leads with the headline, "Has Russia's war against Ukraine reached its point of no return?" Matil is pessimistic. He calls events in East Ukraine a war and says the Russian-backed militants are going to fight for more and more territory. He believes, therefore, that Western hopes of a negotiated settlement of the conflict are thus effectively dead. Matil does believe, though, that Ukraine's military can stop the insurgents from advancing further, but he doesn't think the military can push them back. He goes on to argue that Ukraine should actually pursue a policy of slowly cutting off the insurgent-occupied regions, even though Ukrainian lawmakers can't publicly admit to taking that line. Matil says, bereft of this burden, that's the Donbas region, Ukraine could move westward more rapidly and determinedly. So Bershidsky is telling us that Putin wants a deal, but he only wants it when his proxies in East Ukraine are in a dominant position on the battlefield. And that's why the death toll has risen sharply in recent days and why it will remain high for the foreseeable future. Will Ukraine buckle in the face of those high casualty numbers? Putin is hoping it does before the economic damage on the Russian economy from sanctions becomes too great. Meanwhile, Matil says negotiation is pointless. It's time to cut off the Donbas and hope the Kremlin's puppet regimes there collapse. He says Ukraine could be greatly helped by deliveries of Western-supplied weapons, but that is looking like a line that US President Obama and German Chancellor Merkel, among others, are not willing to cross. That wraps up our program for today. Join us again tomorrow for another press review. In Kiev, this is Ukraine Today.